Okay, number 5. Sleep. First rule of sleep: consider sleep a nutrient. Just like vitamin D, just like your multivitamin, just like vitamin C or any other nutrient. Sleep is a nutrient. Without it, you will get sick and die. With the deprivation of it, you will get sick. Sleep should be scheduled with the sun. Why? Because your genes have evolved over 1 million years, going to bed when it's dark outside and waking up when the sun comes over the horizon and stimulates cortisol to be produced by your brain. So if you go to bed every night at midnight and it got dark at, let's say in the summer, right? It got dark at 9, you've stayed up 3 hours too late. And then you wake up tired and you wonder why. In my house, bedtime is 8:30. It just is. Why? Because in the winter, there's no way I can get to bed at 6 because I see my last patient at 5:30. But 8:30 is pretty darn close. And in the summer, we'll extend it to 9 if it's staying light until 9. But usually it's 8:30. Why? Because again, we want to hit as close to that mark as possible. Now a lot of people are thinking, well, kids got homework and they got to stay up and study for tests. No, they don't. That's not more important than sleep. Since when do we prioritize that over health? It's not a priority. It's a priority to make good grades, but it's not a greater priority to make good grades than it is to get adequate sleep. Does that make sense? So, it's better to burn the morning oil than the midnight oil. You got a test to study for? Study for it in advance. That goes back to our first rule, which was plan ahead, right? So if we're planning ahead, we don't have to stay up late and burn the midnight oil. And if we feel like we want to study a little bit more, just wake up a little bit earlier. But don't stay up late. The hours of time, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., those are the 4-hour, that's the 4-hour time frame the body heals and resets its circadian pattern. If you don't do that, if you're not asleep during that 4-hour time frame, guess what happens? Slowly over time, your cortisol levels go up. Okay, and as your cortisol levels are up here, they're up here long enough, your adrenal glands get tired, and then your cortisol goes crunk, and it cranks way down because it can no longer keep up with the demand. And when your cortisol drops, guess what happens? You can't deal with stress. You become stress intolerant. Your body becomes inflamed and you become extremely tired and lethargic. You can't think. You develop brain fog. Okay? And once that's there, that's like diabetes. That's actually the same analogy. If diabetes is hormone disruption of the pancreas, okay, adrenal disruption is kind of diabetes of the adrenal glands. You've overproduced cortisol for way too long and now your gland can't handle it anymore, so now it tanks. And the only way to recover that? Sleep. Naps. More sleep. Rest. We're not nocturnal. How many of you have cat vision? How many of you can see in the dark very, very well? Really? Super well. So if all the lights were off, you could see and walk around and do everything you needed to do.
If the moon's out.
Yeah, okay, if the moon's out. Without the moon. So, my point is, we're not nocturnal. We shouldn't be nocturnal. Do not put your DNA in an environment that's not conducive to the health of your DNA. And lack of sleep is doing that. What disrupts sleep? Lack of exercise. Lack of exercise. Yeah, lack of exercise disrupts sleep. Too much stress. Stress can come from physical, chemical, or emotional sources. Too much caffeine. I just drink 1 cup a day. 1 cup a day, depending on the size of the cup. I think I've told you guys this story before. One time I had a patient says, I only drink 1 cup of coffee a day. I said, how big's the cup? Oh, it's one of these 72-ounce refill cups, right? Just 1 cup. But too much caffeine will overstimulate your adrenal glands. When you overstimulate your adrenal glands over time, that's what happens. Again, disrupts the sleep cycle. A number of different medications will disrupt sleep. It's one of the big side effects. Just watch the commercials. Insomnia. Habitually going to bed late. That's why bedtime in my house is 8:30. Eating the wrong foods. How many of you ever eaten something that made your heart race? You get in bed at night, your heart's racing, you can't go to sleep. Now, wheat's notorious for doing that. It'll crank the heart rate way up there. Being overweight. Heard of sleep apnea? You know what sleep apnea is? Most sleep apnea is caused by two things. Too much pressure on the esophagus, on the air pipes, because there's too much weight. Or constriction, because there's too much inflammation. Because you're eating the wrong things. Not enough sunshine. Sunshine regulates a special hormone called melatonin. Melatonin is what puts you to sleep at night. If you're not outside enough every day, you don't make enough melatonin, you're going to have a hard time going to sleep. You're going to be one of those, I can't go to sleep, I'm just a night person. No, you're not a night person. Your body has adapted to being a night person to keep you alive. You need to unadapt to that, and you need to go back in the other direction. And then artificial lights. Any of you have ever been in my office, I have these special lights. They're full spectrum lights. The reason I have full spectrum lights in my office is because it helps me make melatonin. So if I'm in my office all day and I'm not outside, I have to address my own needs. And that's why I have that. You should have, if you're indoors and your job requires you to be indoors for lengthy times, you need to have some type of full spectrum light bulb either above you or on your lamp or whatever it is, whatever kind of lighting that you have. You want to be able to make your own melatonin.